The command chamber of Vera 9 hummed with alien voices, layered clicks and hisses echoing against steel walls that still smelled faintly of welding torches. The colony had been built fast, too fast, a frontier outpost wrapped in orbital scaffolds and promises of prosperity. But the atmosphere inside was anything but stable. Captain Elias Kale stood at the edge of the chamber, his arms folded tight across his chest. The prosthetics didn't hide their nature: matte alloy plating, scuffed from years of service, joints that clicked faintly when he shifted. He didn't bother disguising the fact that he was half machine now. Let them look. Across the chamber, High Marshal Threx Vare loomed like a shard of obsidian brought to life. His crystalline carapace shimmered under the cold light, multifaceted eyes glinting with disdain. He didn't address Elias directly at first. He never did. "This colony remains inefficient," Threx rasped to his entourage. His voice was deep, vibrating the chamber's support beams. "Human improvisation has built infrastructure that is, predictably, fragile. If the rogue warclans strike here, these settlements will shatter like thin glass." One of his officers, a smaller insectoid with twitching mandibles, gestured toward Elias with something that looked like a clawed finger. "They rely on that one for military advice. A creature too broken to fight, clinging to outdated methods. Primitive." The alien's laughter was sharp, metallic. Elias exhaled slowly. "You want a fragile colony? Keep ignoring the patrol reports." That earned silence for a beat. Threx turned at last, towering over him. "Speak carefully, human." Elias met his gaze, unflinching. "Convoys have been going dark along the Hellion route. Outposts burned. Same pattern every time: scouts vanish, then colonies get raided. That's not chance. That's staging. We're next." Threx's mandibles spread wide, a gesture of mock amusement. "Your species has a talent for paranoia. The enforcers have not detected any credible threat. Your sensors don't cover the rocks they're hiding behind." Elias shot back. "But my people live here. We see the signs. You don't." The marshal's carapace pulsed faintly with irritation. "You are obsolete flesh, patched together with crude metal. I will not waste time on the fears of a relic." The insult rolled off Elias without visible reaction. He'd heard worse on battlefields where the enemy didn't bother with words before trying to kill him. He pushed away from the wall and started toward the exit. "When the sky falls, Marshal, it won't be your kind holding the line. It'll be mine." Laughter followed him out, but it was thin this time, uncertain. The corridors of Vera 9 buzzed with life. Human colonists hurried between prefab habitats and unfinished hydroponics towers, their boots clanging against steel decking. Supply crates stacked along walls bore markings of half a dozen worlds. Life at the edge of known space was never neat, never orderly, but Elias saw something in the bustle that aliens would never understand: resilience. He paused near the transit hub, where families crowded around shuttles. A boy broke away from his parents, staring wide-eyed at Elias's mechanical arm. "Are you Captain Kale?" Elias crouched slightly, metal joints whining. "Used to be," he said. The boy raised a hand in a sloppy salute. His mother tried to pull him back, embarrassed, but Elias nodded to the child. "Keep your chin up. This place needs people who don't scare easy." The boy grinned. For a moment, Elias almost smiled back. Later, in his quarters, silence pressed close. The room was Spartan: a bunk, a desk stacked with reports, a rack holding the sidearm he was technically no longer authorized to carry. He sat at the desk and scrolled through convoy logs. Missing shipments. Distorted sensor readings. Faint distress pings cut off mid-transmission. Patterns only someone who had spent years watching battle unfold would notice. He muttered to himself. "They're probing. Softening up the edges. Same tactics as Arion's Reach. Same damn rhythm." The prosthetic hand tapped against the desk, metal on metal. He hated the sound. Hated the reminder. He flexed the fingers once, then reached for the diagnostic tool and ran a systems check. Motors whirred. Lights blinked green. Functional. For now. His reflection in the dark screen caught his eye, scar running from temple to jaw, hair graying early, eyes that never seemed to rest. He looked older than 39. Older than he should. He shut the console down. The first alarm came hours later. A rising wail shook the bunkroom walls, followed by the thud of boots and the clatter of weapons. Elias was already pulling on his jacket when the comm crackled. "Unidentified vessels emerging near orbit," a clipped voice said. "Multiple signatures. Defensive units mobilize." He froze for a heartbeat, jaw tight. Then he muttered, "Too soon." The prosthetic hand curled into a fist. He stepped out into the corridor, where colonists hurried toward shelters and militia units scrambled for orders. No one looked twice at him now. They were too busy running. At the far end of the hall, the sky beyond the viewport lit with the first flashes of weapons fire. The war clans had arrived. The colony sky turned into a storm of fire. From the viewport, ships clawed their way out of dark space, jagged silhouettes against the stars. Plasma lances cut through orbit, striking defense satellites and blinding arcs. Within minutes, the outer ring of Vera 9 was nothing but burning debris spiraling into the atmosphere. The command chamber was chaos. Alien enforcers snapped orders in their harsh tongue, crystalline limbs moving in frantic patterns. Holographic projections blinked in and out under the strain of too many distress calls. High Marshal Threx stood at the center, mandibles rigid. "Hold formations," he barked. "Their tactics are crude. We will crush them swiftly." Elias Kale stepped inside, his voice cutting through the noise. "They're not testing you, they're committing. Those are full Warclan fleets. If you don't adjust, this colony falls." The Marshal's head turned sharply. "You presume to instruct me?" "I presume to survive," Elias shot back. He pointed at the tactical display, highlighting the enemy's spread. "They're driving you toward the orbital yards. They'll pin you against the planet, cut your retreat, then rain fire until the ground's ash. I've seen this before." Threx's mandibles spread in contempt. "Humans see ghosts in every shadow. Leave the defense to those with discipline. Your discipline is about to get people killed," Elias said, but the Marshal had already turned away, signaling his fleet to advance. Outside, the colony groaned under bombardment. Shockwaves rippled through the surface as enemy dropships streaked toward the ground. Buildings shook, alarms wailed, and militia scrambled through streets with weapons barely older than the colonists carrying them. Elias didn't wait for permission. He strode into the militia staging bay, where dozens of colonists were fumbling with rifles and armor plates. Fear showed in their eyes. A lieutenant spotted him. "Captain Kale!" "Orders?" Technically, he had no authority. The enforcers had stripped him of command years ago. But the militia didn't look to the enforcers. They looked to him. "Lock down the civilian sectors," Elias said without hesitation. "Get families underground. Turn the mining drones into sentry platforms. Anything that can fire, wire it to the defense grid. And reroute power from the refinery to the shields." But the enforcers said, "The enforcers aren't bleeding for you," Elias snapped. His voice carried through the bay, silencing the panic. "Do what I said. Now." Orders rippled outward, colonists moving with sudden clarity. The chaos sharpened into direction. Hours bled into a nightmare. The first enemy landing parties hit the colony perimeter, swarms of armored raiders surging from their craft. The enforcers tried to meet them with disciplined formations, shields locked, weapons flashing in perfect arcs. It should have been unstoppable. Instead, the lines buckled. The war clans didn't fight with order. They fought like fire, fast, unpredictable, slashing into gaps, turning every misstep into slaughter. Enforcer soldiers collapsed in screams as energy blades tore through their ranks. From a high platform, Elias watched it unravel. His jaw clenched. They don't know how to fight chaos. He turned to his own people. Pick choke points. Don't meet them head on. Force them through the refinery tunnels and maintenance corridors, places their numbers mean nothing. Make them fight you one by one. Colonists armed with scavenged rifles nodded, scattering to carry out his plan. Elias grabbed a comm unit and barked into the militia channel. Group B, draw them into the hydroponics hallways. Seal blast doors behind them. C, rig those tunnels with charges. Make them pay for every meter. Explosions soon rattled through the colony as Elias's strategy took hold. Raiders found themselves funneled into narrow passages where human fire tore them apart. In the hydroponics wing, sealed bulkheads turned ambushes into death traps. For the first time, the attackers slowed. Threx appeared on the comm, his image towering above Elias. Behind him, alien officers scrambled in disarray. You defy direct command, Threx hissed, mandibles twitching with fury. You've diverted resources without sanction. I kept people alive, Elias said flatly. Something you're failing at. You think these improvised tricks will hold? You cannot win a war by scurrying like vermin. No, Elias admitted, meeting the marshal's gaze. But you can survive one. That's the difference. For a long moment, the alien said nothing. Then the feed cut abruptly, as if Threx couldn't stand to hear more. The fighting dragged into night. Fires painted the colony sky red, shadows flickering against broken walls. Elias moved constantly, prosthetic limbs whirring as he dragged barricades into place, shouted orders, pulled the wounded to safety. He bled from a cut along his temple, ignored the sting of burned flesh on his arm. There was no time to stop. At the western perimeter, he found a dozen colonists crouched behind makeshift defenses, barrels stacked with sand and scrap metal. Enemy raiders pressed closer, their war cries echoing through smoke. One of the militia, voice shaking, said, "We can't hold this." "Yes, you can," Elias said. He crouched beside them, aiming his rifle with practiced ease. "Don't think about winning. Think about standing. You do that, and you're already stronger than they expect." The first wave hit. Plasma bolts screamed through the air. Elias's rifle barked in reply, dropping a raider mid-charge. The militia followed his lead, their fire stitching the narrow street. Bodies piled at the choke point, but the humans held. By dawn, the colony still stood, though scarred and bleeding. The ground outside the perimeter was littered with burning wrecks. Civilians huddled in shelters, shaken but alive. Elias leaned against the wall, breathing hard, sweat streaking his dirt-stained face. His prosthetics ached, servos whining faintly after hours of strain. From orbit, Threx's voice crackled over the comm, cold and sharp. "You are reckless, human. This defiance jeopardizes Enforcer authority. Your kind will burn before sunrise if you persist." Elias stared at the horizon, where smoke curled upward like a funeral pyre. He raised the comm, voice low but steady. "Not tonight." He cut the channel before Threx could answer. And as silence settled over the battered colony, Elias Kale knew the fight was only beginning. The sun rose behind a wall of smoke, staining the horizon with bruised orange light. Vera 9 looked broken, scorched streets, shattered towers, the air thick with the stink of burned alloy and blood. Raiders prowled through the outskirts, pushing deeper with each wave, their guttural chants echoing across ruined sectors. In the power nexus at the colony's heart, Elias Kale stood among the last line of defense. His uniform was torn, face streaked with soot and dried blood. The servos in his prosthetic arms groaned under every motion, but he ignored the pain. Around him, fewer than 300 militia remained, their backs to the humming reactors that powered every shelter still standing. He looked at their faces, miners, farmers, freight workers turned soldiers overnight. Exhaustion hollowed their eyes, but they hadn't broken. That mattered more than numbers. A scout rushed in, panting. "They're massing. Thousands. They're coming straight for us." Elias nodded. "Then this is where we make it cost them." The words were steady, but inside he felt the weight of truth. They couldn't hold forever. Not against what was coming. And the Enforcers? They'd withdrawn to orbit hours ago, their ships circling high above like vultures, watching without lifting a claw. The comms unit on his belt crackled. High Marshal Threx's voice hissed through, dripping venom. "Human! Your colony is lost. Lay down arms. Spare yourselves further humiliation." Elias raised the calm to his mouth. You left us to die, Marshal. Your kind courts death with arrogance. Threx sneered. You are outnumbered, outmatched, broken. This is the end. Elias's jaw clenched. He stared at the militia, their rifles clutched tight, waiting for his next word. He pressed the calm button again, voice calm, almost casual. Funny, he said. Because my backup's here. At first, nothing changed. Then the sky cracked. Out beyond the smoke, new signatures flared across orbital sensors, sleek, angular warships sliding out of stealth like predators uncloaking at last. Human ships. Old hulls patched with scavenged plating, weapons bristling from every hardpoint, banners of forgotten fleets painted along their sides. Survivors from campaigns the enforcers had written off. Crews who refused to die quietly. Their arrival shattered the silence of space. Rail cannons thundered, punching through raider cruisers in single shots. Missile swarms lit the heavens in white fire. The WarClan fleet, so confident moments ago, buckled as its lead ships were torn apart before they could react. Inside the Nexus, militia stared upward through cracked viewports, awe dawning in their tired eyes. They came, one whispered. Elias allowed himself the smallest smile. Told you. We don't break. On the ground, the tide shifted instantly. Raider formations faltered as their orbital support burned in the sky. Elias slammed a fresh power pack into his rifle and raised his voice over the din. Now we hit them back. Drive them out of our streets. The militia roared, surging forward with renewed fury. Gunfire tore through the first enemy ranks. Elias moved with them, prosthetic limbs sparking under strain, each step heavy but relentless. A towering raider captain swung a blade the size of a man at him. Elias caught the strike on his arm, metal shrieking as alloy ground against alien steel. Sparks showered his face. With a snarl, he jammed his rifle against the raider's chest and fired point blank. The alien collapsed in a smoking heap. Elias didn't stop. He pushed forward, leading the charge through rubble and fire, shouting orders that turned scattered defense into a coordinated push. Left flank, cut through the refinery yard. Don't let them regroup. Squad 3, collapse that passage. Bury them alive. Every command landed. Every move counted. Humanity fought like it had always fought, adaptable, ruthless, united in desperation. Above, Threx watched the battle from orbit, crystalline claws digging into the command rail as the human fleet carved through his enemies. His officers murmured in disbelief. They were hiding ships? One whispered. Impossible. They are primitives. They cannot coordinate such deception. But the proof blazed across every tactical screen. Human vessels moving with precision, covering each other, striking where the enemy was weakest. Threx's multifaceted eyes narrowed. This should not be. Back on the ground, the power nexus became the rallying point of victory. Raiders tried one final push, storming across the plaza in a wave of bodies. Elias stood at the front, rifle empty, pulling a sidearm from his belt. Hold the line! He shouted. Gunfire cracked. Explosions ripped through enemy ranks as charges hidden in rubble detonated. When the dust cleared, only silence followed. The last raider fell, sprawling lifeless at Elias's feet. The militia erupted in cheers, voices hoarse but fierce. Some dropped to their knees, clutching each other in disbelief. Elias holstered his sidearm slowly. His body ached, his prosthetics sparking with every twitch, but he stayed upright. The fight was done. The calm crackled again. Threx's voice, stripped of arrogance, sounded colder, quieter. Your kind surprised me, Captain. Perhaps you are not as weak as you appear. Elias wiped soot from his brow, his face unreadable. You spent all this time mocking us. That was your mistake. Humanity doesn't quit. We don't bow. We endure. Threx hesitated, then the channel cut, leaving only static. As dusk fell, Elias walked the battered streets of Vera 9. Fires still burned, wreckage lay scattered, but people were alive. Children clung to parents. Survivors dug through rubble for neighbors. Every face turned when he passed, not with pity, not with doubt, but with something harder, brighter. Respect. At the plaza's edge, the boy from the transit hub saluted him again, dirt smeared across his cheek. Elias paused, then returned the salute with a weary nod. He looked toward the stars, where human ships still prowled, guarding the colony. Reinforcements would come, more battles would follow, but tonight they had proved something the galaxy could no longer deny. Elias muttered under his breath, voice carrying only to himself. They'll learn. One way or another they'll learn. And with the colony standing behind him, he knew humanity's fight had only just begun.